Imagine growing an abundance of food right in your backyard. To start a successful food forest, you need three things: time, experience, and money. But the truth is, you can get by with just two. And if you don't have any experience or money, then this video is for you, because today I'm going to show you how to start a food forest on a shoestring budget. Or no budget at all. My goal with this channel has always been to show people how to grow food without breaking the bank. I don't believe that a homegrown tomato should cost you $500. Now, this method that I'm going to show you is going to require an input of time. And that's one thing to keep in mind. Time is money. So any money that you save when starting your garden, you are going to have to put in the time. This guide is made specifically with the Florida gardener in mind. However, if you live outside of our subtropical zone, I'm sure you find a lot of tips in here helpful as well. Step one is you are going to take a survey of your property. To do that, you're going to need a tape measure and a pad of paper. And I'm using grid paper. Pro tip, it makes it really easy to scale things. And then you're just gonna start by measuring your property from corner to corner. If you don't want to do that, you can kind of guesstimate it. But what I really like to take into consideration when I am doing a survey is marking where I have trees that cannot be removed, as well as sheds, driveways, pathways, and of course, things that are like a house. I can get an eagle's eye view and see where the shadows are going to fall onto the food forest. And it also lets me plant things a lot more efficiently. So now it's time to move on to step number two. What are your goals, limitations, and expectations? Before starting your layout, ask yourself these questions. How much time can I devote to maintenance? What are my goals with this food forest? Do you want to spend more time outdoors? Do you want to supplement some of your grocery bill with homegrown produce? And how long do you want to wait until your food forest starts producing? For example, if you focus mostly on growing annuals, you can start producing your food in as little as 90 days. And if your goal is to grow more fruit trees, keep in mind that some of them take as long as 10 years to start producing. So my approach is always to have a little bit of both. Some garden beds that are dedicated to annuals, as well as some fruit trees that are either starting to bear or will bear fruit eventually. If time is of the essence and you want to start harvesting your food as soon as possible, then annuals are a great option, since a lot of them can go from seed to harvest in as little as 90 days. However, growing annuals does require a little bit more of a time commitment, as the seedlings and the baby plants will need to be tended to and maintained throughout their growing season. And when it comes to perennials, although it does take them a little bit of time to get established and producing, once they are past that threshold, they are virtually maintenance free. And the most important thing with perennials is site selection, since it's not as easy to move them if you decide that they are not doing well in that spot. All right, now it's time for step number three. We are going to take our survey and our goals, and we're going to come up with a site plan. So before we get into talking about the layout and design, I want to preface that there are many different ways to lay out your food forest. Now, some people prefer more of a syntropic approach, where it's more of an agroforest. I like a hybrid model of some garden beds as well as some perennials and trees throughout. Planting taller trees on the northern edge is going to keep them from shading out your annuals. However, if you find that some spots of your food forest are just too sunny and too intense, which is very common here in Florida, you can always add some perennials around them as well. I also like to mark areas that are more prone to flooding, because that indicates to me that I can grow more thirsty plants in the spot without any problem. And it also lets me know to avoid these spots for planting perennials such as peaches and apples that prefer to be a little bit on the drier side. This is what that survey looks like. It is a standard quarter-acre lot. Each square on the grid measures approximately 6 by 6 feet to give you an idea of scale. I also went ahead and I marked areas that get the most sun, as well as spots that have standing water after it rains. And there are also 2 big oaks on the property that cannot be removed. When making a site plan, I like to start on the northern edge of the property and then work my way in. And since the northeastern corner is prone to flooding, I am utilizing the space to grow bananas since they don't mind being constantly wet. Now, moving on to trees. The higher elevations are going to be for trees that cannot handle standing in water, so that means avocados and peaches. I also have a mulberry here. Now, when you look on the southern edge of the property, you will notice that area gets a lot of sun. However, we only have about 12 feet of clearance. So in this case, we are going to plant our trees in pots, and this will help us contain their size. And now that we have our trees and perennials laid out, it's time to plan our annuals and garden beds. So right here I have a handful of 3 by 6 garden beds. I want to leave about 18 inches of clearance for pathways in between the garden beds. The trees that I have on the map are actually what they're going to be like when they're full size. So we're still going to have a lot of sun at this time. This is going to allow us to start producing food right away. I am still seeing some empty spots. We are going to utilize those for pollinator plants and natives to make really the most out of this space. I also have some vines, things that you want to consider when planning your food forest. Number 1 is the position of the sun, how the sun moves throughout the day. You want to take note of any large trees that are going to block it and use them to your advantage to plant shade tolerant plants or to shade heat sensitive plants during the hottest part of the day. Number 2 is access to water, whether it be a garden hose, drip irrigation, or a rain catchment system. You want to keep your thirstiest plants close to a water source. And then if you have some spots that are a little bit more difficult to get to with a garden hose, reserve that space for more drought tolerant perennials. Number 3 is symmetry. Symmetry is pleasing to the eye, so I like to incorporate that into my designs whenever I get the chance. Number 4 is pathways and flow. You want to create a garden space that you can move through easily and that has something that piques your interest at every corner. And this is what that layout actually looks like in practice. So for reference, we are right here in this corner. This is a mango tree. That's the passion fruit trellis right here that provides shade. And this is the wettest corner. So for the longest time, this was utilized for a lot of potted plants that can be raised up. And back here we have the bananas. Right here we have 2 garden beds with trellises. Back there we have another garden bed that we are filling up right now with compost later on. That's going to be covered with some native dirt. We'll be ready to plant in there right in time for our fall season in September. Let me turn around and I'll show you what else we got. So now you are facing south and you can see how densely everything is planted. So we are in this little corner right here, right at the edge of where the sun meets the water. Right here it floods. Over here it doesn't flood as much. And you can see we have utilized some trellises. This is to maximize our space. It also creates a really nice shade structure because that sun during the summer is really, really intense. And in the winter, it's a lot more forgiving. So we actually utilize these as little grow houses by covering them up and putting some light bulbs in there to keep things warm. This is a papaya. That's a squash. Then back here, this is a moringa tree. That's a moringa tree. This thing has survived 3 or 4 hurricanes. It breaks off and then comes back every year. Very pretty tree, and the hummingbirds really like it. All right, now you are looking west. As you can see, the sun is setting behind me. All of this is protected from the hottest part of the day. We have a peach tree here. When you're starting your food forest, you have to be really mindful of when you are going to plant your trees in the ground. You don't want to stress them out too much. So the best time for us here in Central Florida is usually either in the fall or early spring, avoiding that hottest part of the year. Right behind me, there, believe it or not, there is actually a garden bed here and there, and that's on the map here. This whole area has been taken over by squashes and pumpkins. And we're going to keep it that way until the summer is over. This does several things. We're going to have pumpkins to eat when not many things grow during this part of the year. And it also provides shade for the soil, which is really important for preserving all those good little microbes. So right here we have the understory layer. This is blueberry, and further up are the bananas, which brings me to step 4. Once you have your site plan and your plants, before you put them in the ground, you're going to need to improve your soil. And this really depends on if you want to do it fast or slow. Sometimes spending a little bit of money to accelerate the process is going to give you better results in the long run. So for example, if you want to start growing food right away, you can buy ready-made compost and have it delivered to your property by the truckload. And by spending a little bit more on perennials, you can buy mature fruit trees that are already producing. And so my goal with all of this is for you to decide what's important to you and how you want to spend your money in the garden. Improving your soil, making your own compost, all of that takes at least 6 months to a year. So if I were to start this all over again, it would be at least a year until I could harvest my own food. Right over here is a big oak tree. Behind me there is a garden bed. One thing that we have learned here is that if you have a big oak tree, they are going to steal all the nutrients and resources from any garden beds that you place near them. So a good alternative is planting in containers and raising that up so that the oak roots cannot penetrate. And as you are starting your food forest, I want you to remember to be patient, because this is a marathon, not a race. And as you're going along, make sure to take lots of pictures so you can look back at your progress over time. If you need more information on starting a food forest, check out my other videos as well as my website. I have an interactive garden guide, and I just wanted to let you know that I am now offering one-on-one consultations via Zoom or in person if you are in the Central Florida area, and you can book those through my website at foreverfoodforest.com. So thanks for watching, you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.